Welcome back to My Best Friend's an Engineer.
I'm Libby.
I'm Lexi.
And, let's get the show on the road. We're recording this the day after we talked to Kayla, so it is 11 a.m.
Yeah, so we have no recap, but...
It's not even that early. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
We're both chugging the coffee this morning, trying to get ready.
But I guess we could talk about our upcoming weeks.
Yeah.
Since we already talked about it last week.
Since we don't have anything to recap.
Yeah. So, what do you have on the plate, on the agenda this week, Libby?
Let's see. Well, I am going on a family vacation at the end of next week, so I'm pretty stoked about that. We're leaving on Friday, and we're going to Disney, so that's really exciting. My family has not gone on, like, a family vacation in, like, probably 5 years, so...
Exciting.
It'll be exciting.
Very fun.
So that is like personal life, and then work life. I'm taking Friday off because our flight is 6 a.m. on Friday. So taking Friday off, and this will be the first time at work that I have to like give my projects to somebody. Cause like I don't know, the first couple years that I started, I didn't really take a long vacation because I felt like I was the new person. Like I wanted to make sure I was proving my worth or whatever. And now I'm like. My boss is like, okay, we're going to have a turnover and, like, give your projects to someone else for the week. And I'm like, oh, my gosh. So that'll be new and exciting. Hopefully, like, I have everything prepped for the person so that there's, like, not too much they have to worry about. And I think I'm going to bring my laptop with anyway. So, like, because I'm just so anxious. Like, I feel like I can't just leave my laptop. So, yeah, I think the week is going to go by really fast, though, because I'll be, like... the beginning of the week, I'll be, like, getting my projects ready, and then at the end of the week, I'll be, like, giving them to somebody else, and then I'll be going on the vacation. So what about you?
So I'll be on site again, probably every day this week, so I'll just keep busy that way. I think I'm getting some samples back.
Ooh.
So we'll be closing out one part of the project. So then we'll start the last part. So then hopefully I'll be done soon. But yeah, on site every day, so I'll be keeping busy that way.
Yeah. Is this the one in Wisconsin or?
No, Arlington Heights.
Illinois.
So
okay.
It's only like 45 minutes away. So This one isn't bad. Not a bad drive, but it's good to get out of the house. Instead of like being fully remote.
And you said you get samples back. Is this from a lab?
Yeah, well, they're getting sterilized.
Ooh, fancy.
A little sterilization vendor. So can't wait to get those back. But yeah, nothing too crazy other than that.
Just plugging along.
Yeah.
Starting the new year off right.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay, I think, do we want to get into maybe briefing what we want to talk about in this episode?
So I think we'll talk about some achievements from this past year, I think, both personal and work-wise. Mm-hmm. And then we want to talk about our goals, career-wise as well as personal, and then talking about our future career paths and future career goals. Yeah,
I think this will be a good way for people to get to know us, too, because, we have a couple things we want to talk about work-wise, personal-wise, and just wanting to give our listeners kind of an overview of what we do for our jobs and maybe, like, how we got started in the beginning, kind of what we have been doing since working there. But we'll start off with achievements from 2021. It's good to look back. It's good to reflect. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
All right, I can go.
Should we do every other?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do every other.
Okay, so one big thing that I achieved this last year, I would say, is transitioning from one job to another company. So to give some background, we're going to talk about this a little more when we go into like my work experience. So I was at a consulting firm, so a smaller firm, and then moved over to a bigger company because the consulting firm asked me to relocate, which is something that I think it's important to talk about, especially if a company asks you to do things and how to handle that.
Yeah.
That were not in the initial terms of your employment. So I ended up getting a role that kept me in the Chicago area, rather than relocating to the East Coast, which at that time I wanted. Maybe I'll end up in the East Coast one day, but
never say never.
At that time I was not ready to commit, so I ended up getting a very good opportunity over here. So that was a good goal and achievement that I just wanted to transition well, especially remote. It was a complete remote transition, and I was on site every day at the East Coast job, so that was just crazy different.
And you went through the application process all over again.
Yeah.
Like, you think right when you get out of college, you kind of like do that, and you're like in the job, but you did it again.
Yeah, while working. So that was
While
crazy.
working.
So that we have a lot to talk about there. But
Yeah.
how about you?
Okay, achievement number 1, I got a raise at work, which was very unexpected and awesome. It was funny because my boss made me put my camera on, so like the anxious person that I am, I thought I was getting fired. He's like,
You wanted to see your face?
Okay. He messaged me like in the morning, and he was like, I'm gonna put something on your calendar for this afternoon, and I want it to be like with the cameras on. So at least I like knew, and I could put some makeup on and like look like a normal person and like make sure I had a nice background or whatever. But yeah, so he made me put my camera on. He like told me I got a raise, and I think he said like, you're doing a great job and we wanted to increase your salary. And I was like, what? I was like so confused because I don't know. I guess that's just not something that I thought would happen within my first couple years of work. So I wasn't really expecting it. And so, yeah, and he's like, oh, I thought you'd be more excited. That's why I wanted to have the camera on. And I was like, no, I am. I'm just kind of shocked. I wasn't ready for that. I thought you were firing me. And he's like, what? No, we're not firing you. So anyway, that was a good achievement for me for 2021, and just want to keep those vibes going, manifesting another raise, hopefully in 2022.
Was that like your end of year review, or was that just completely random?
It was I think it was like in August. So it was like super, our end of the year reviews, our fiscal year ends in April, end of April. So that's usually when we have our end of year reviews, like kind of right before the summer starts. So it didn't come up then. So that's kind of when I would expect it would happen. So that's why it was like super random, and I was like, oh, okay, cool.
That's good. Exciting. Very nice.
All right, on to your number 2.
Awesome. Yeah. So I started leading more projects at work with this new role. So I think that was a big achievement. Just like being able to know what I needed for that project instead of leaning on my manager or maybe like my mentor for that stuff. So I think that was something that I'm really happy I was able to do and experience throughout my job. So, and just like working, I think in validation, you need to work with a lot of different departments, whether it's quality, manufacturing, all those different, departments go into planning for a project. So I was able to get a lot of experience with that and kind of figuring out how to handle, all that scheduling, because some people want to do things on their own time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, we need to do this first before we can. Yeah. So I think I'm really happy I was able to do that.
Did you do a lot of projects in your consulting? Like,
No,
was
it was
a different change for you?
Yeah, definitely. So for the consulting one, I was on one big project, and it was just a very routine, doing the same thing. So that was more execution. And I can go into like the differences with validation of what goes into that, but it was just literally a routine, just do this every day, get it done, get these tests done, versus this one where I wasn't necessarily doing the execution. I was kind of just planning the whole validation, seeing what goes into like what's required to get that product or whatever it was validated. So I think it was just a lot more kind of maybe similar to your role, like project manager, but like less, didn't get the title, like not dealing with all that. Just
But a little bit more excitement going on.
Definitely.
Dealing with different people. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, my next one has to do with social media. I'm pretty proud of myself that I got 10,000 followers on Instagram and 80,000 on TikTok.
What an influencer.
I know that like numbers and followers aren't everything, but I started the Instagram from scratch in 2020 during quarantine. Well, I think a lot of people started like random hobbies during quarantine, like baking and trying to do new social medias. And I started off because I didn't want to use my personal, because I didn't want people to be like, what is she doing? Why is she trying to like post all this new stuff? And so this new Instagram, Libby Beyond the Label, has been quite the journey, because I started off like doing drawings like on my iPad, posting that, and then I opened a small business and like was posting more of the small business, and then I like transitioned to like more influencer, just like posting.
It was like your apartment. You had a big apartment trend.
I did the whole apartment journey, and then I started post more about being like getting an engineering degree, and then here we are. And so here we are. I thought that was pretty cool. And I wanted to say like kind of the numbers, so that hopefully I can look back like in a year and say that I increased even more and be like, oh my god, little baby girl, I have so many followers with 10,000 on Instagram, 80,000 on TikTok. So yeah, it's been a journey. I can't wait to see where it keeps going. I think that social media is really interesting in the fact that it's such a long-term thing, you know, like I think people want like instant gratification when they start new social medias and like, what? I want to just go viral and like be famous or whatever. But it's like really is, you got to put in the years to like see
I feel like you hear all those stories of like, oh, I just posted one video and I got 1 million followers or something.
Yeah.
Like,
and it'll be cool to see how it progresses. But yeah, that is my second achievement for 2021.
Awesome. So I would say my last one would be starting this side project. I feel like I've been trying to find something to do on the side of work, and I feel like it was very hard to transition from school where you have something going on all the time. You always have something to do, always have, you know, some event to go to, and then you're like working and you're like, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm used to being busy. Like, what do I clean my room again? Like, I just felt like, especially during COVID, like, you know, on the weekends, there wasn't any, like, not much to do at the point. I was just, like, going crazy. So I think this was exciting. I think I'm very excited to see where it goes.
I know. I'm hoping we, like, put in the work long term and, like, we can look back at when we first started and we're, like, documenting our lives.
Yeah.
In your ears. You're listening to our life documentary. So that is awesome. Yeah. What are you have any big goals for the podcast specifically?
Oh, man. I think one big goal is just getting a lot of guests on and being able to meet new engineers through the podcast. I think that would be super cool. The fact that we started this and we were able to meet these people through something that we started and did ourselves. And,
like, have people here, like, in our space that we're creating.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really rewarding.
I hope so.
So we hope so. Okay, achievement number 3 for me in 2021. I bought a house.
That's big.
Big. It's so random. And I say that it's so random because I was not, like, planning to buy a house at all.
Yeah, literally, we got dinner that Friday.
Yeah.
And you're, like, talking, and I was like, oh, how's the apartment? And you're like, oh, it's nice, you know? And I was like, oh, would you ever, like, think about moving to a house? She's like, no, like, no way. And then the Wednesday after, I get a text, I bought a house. I was like, are you kidding me?
It's so random. Especially because I feel like on my TikTok and on my Instagram, I just did, like, the whole year of getting ready for the apartment.
Yeah, literally. And now you're like, let's move to a house.
And then I was like, oh, let's get a house. And the apartment was super random, too, because, like, I remember I just woke up one morning. Obviously, when you're done with college and you're, like, living at home, at some point, you, like, think you're going to be moving out. But, like, I didn't really have a plan. And, like, one day I was just like, I'm going to get an apartment. And my parents were like, what? And I was like, yep, I already scheduled an appointment to see one, like, all this stuff. And then I got the apartment. And then, like, I think it was June or July, both my parents are real estate agents, so I was sitting on the porch at their house with them, and I don't even know, I think it was like a rainy day or something, there like wasn't much to do, and I was like, yeah, you guys are never going to be able to find a house for me, I bet you're not, like, I'm very picky, very specific tastes, and I was like, within my budget, like, no way. And my mom was like, you want to bet? And so she, like, looked at these houses, and we were kind of, like, looking at them online. I was like, ooh, like, these are kind of cool. Like, I didn't think that, like, I'd be able to, like, in my price range, these houses would look so nice. And so my mom was like, well, we can just, like, go see them today. And I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. I think it must have been that weekend after.
Yeah, probably.
Because I think we got dinner at, like, on a Thursday or something random. And so we went and, like, saw these houses. The first house was, like, really nice, but, like, didn't have closets.
Oh, really?
And I was like, cute, but, like, where am I going to put all my clothes?
So, like, I have a lot of clothes.
Yeah, my mom, it was a 2-bedroom. My mom was like, you guys can make, like, the second bedroom just a closet. And I was like,
Yeah.
So, like, okay, like, let's go see the next one. And then the second one was the house I ended up buying. And I remember walking in and I was like, this is my house.
Yeah.
Like,
it's beautiful inside. It's, like, completely done.
Completely done. I just, like, declared it. And I was like, oh my God, this is my house. My parents are like, okay, we have a couple other, like, let's see a couple others. And then at the end of the day, I was like, I really like that one. Like, we figured out we can make it work financially. Like, I had just been randomly saving and we were just able to make it work. And so with the current housing market, I know that it's really hard for people to find houses like within their price range. And even if they do find houses within their price range, I've heard a lot of like stories of people being like, I offered 20,000 over and I like still didn't get it or whatever. So I was super nervous about it, and my mom was like, well, like if you do really like it, you got to put an offer in, otherwise it will go. Like someone else will buy it. And I was like, okay. So we put the offer in. And then it got accepted, and I was like, oh, okay. So I'm a homeowner now. Like, I don't know. I always thought that I would buy a house, like, maybe later in my 20s.
Yeah.
So to do it at 25, that was, like, surprising, but, like, exciting.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a very big achievement.
That's a good achievement. So, yeah, okay. So we just went over our achievements. Do we want to move in next to our, like, shorter-term goals, like, maybe just for the next year, like, 2022 goals?
Yeah. Okay, so I can talk about my work-related goals. So I have 3 of those. So I personally want to travel more for work. So I want my boss to be confident enough to like send me to these different sites and be able to pick up a project at a site that I'm not really familiar with their procedures and just be able to handle that. So like I've been sent to like Connecticut and New Jersey, which I don't know. Personally, I love traveling, so that's why I really liked that consulting role initially. But then when they asked me to relocate, and I was like,
Yeah.
it's not what the terms were.
It's
but,
harder long term too.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier. I feel like if you can just travel and like be at the place for a little bit and then
for
come
a few,
home.
yeah, exactly. So hopefully get some more traveling, especially I don't know now with COVID. We'll see.
Do you do a lot of traveling on your own, or are you typically going with another coworker?
In the beginning, it's usually like we get multiple people. So, but I think when you have to be there for multiple weeks, it's just you. So I think it kind of depends on the project, but I don't know. Hopefully, I get to travel on my own a little bit more and be able to represent my team well. So, and then regarding work, just presenting more trainings. I think I need to get better at speaking in front of people, and I want to. I think that'll help like visibility purposes as well. So I want to present more trainings at work, even though I think that's something that is easy to avoid. And like, if you don't have to present the trainings, you just want to stay in the background. But I'm going to try and force myself out of my comfort zone.
This will help too.
Yeah,
the podcast,
definitely.
I think. Like feeling more comfortable just talking.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last work goal is getting a mentee at work. I think that would be a good transition into maybe like a managerial role without getting all of that responsibility at once. Just again, practicing and getting out of that comfort zone. But yeah.
Does your company take on a lot of interns? Like, could you see yourself getting an intern in the future, or?
I don't know if my team specifically has interns, but I know that the company does in general. So that could be something. I think it's something that we would have to work with a different department. Okay. So I don't know how that would go, or like maybe a different site that has like a new entry-level engineer.
Yeah. So that would be cool.
But yeah, how about you?
Let's see. Before I go into that, I want to ask you more about the traveling, because I have traveled for work only with other people, and do you feel confident like traveling alone? Like I'm like scared because like I've never like rented a car before.
Really?
Or like on my own. I always like go with someone and then they're like, what do you want to do about the car? I'm like, let's just share one and you can pick it up. Like, I don't want to do that.
No, that was actually, I feel like I've traveled a lot with my family, so I know all that, so thank God for that. But I know that was one of my coworkers actually that I was traveling to on the East Coast at this role. He had never rented a car before either. Yeah. So he's like, I don't really know what to do. And I was like, oh, I already got it covered before. So I don't know, that was fun, just like be able to know all that and get that all planned. But then actually our company has like a travel department that helps you plan all this stuff. So you kind of just tell them what you need, how many nights, where you want to stay, and then they just plan everything and then they send it to you, which is so nice. Yeah. But actually at my consulting role, you were in charge of planning your flights, you were in charge of figuring all that out, and then we had company cars that we would keep on site or at the apartment building because the housing was covered, and then you would have to just like plan with your coworkers about that. So that was more like interesting because you're kind of like taking away their personal time, because if you're like, okay, my flight's on a Sunday night, like right before work, can you come pick me up from the airport, instead of Ubering. So I don't know, that was very interesting to try and deal with, like that little dynamic. But yeah, it's very different here because they have that travel department that covers all that.
I definitely want to get better at like and I didn't even write this down, but I think like just in the working world, I want to get better at like the travel perks. You know, like a lot of people that I work with like schedule their flights, because you can do any airline, they schedule them like really strategically so that like if they always fly American, so that they can rack up the points. And then like you know, the what is it called, the like on American your username, your rewards profile or whatever, it's not like, it's through American, so like if you, a lot of people then use those points for personal trips, like if they go on family vacations or whatever, like use those points. So I'm like, oh, or like using like a travel credit card, you know, like I want to get better at that. But
I was like looking at the Southwest card because you get 80,000 points when you sign up.
Yeah,
and I'm like, oh, that could be fun.
And then you can like use that personally, like if your goal is like for more travel, you know.
Exactly.
So, okay, I have a couple work ones. So, I want to take on projects at work that deal with other types of equipment. So, in my past 2 years working at the company, with power generation, work on power plants on the steam turbine side. And there's just so many components that go into like the valves or the generator or the turbines. And I feel like I'm starting to get more comfortable in like certain aspects of refurbishment, like for example, like valves. I feel like I'm really confident. Like if my boss gives me a valve project, I can be like, okay, like I'm pretty sure I know like the disassembly process at this point, like how they're going to inspect them. And I feel like if I'm managing a project like that, I can like anticipate the pitfalls to try to plan better. But there are definitely still some like areas or types of equipment where I feel like I'm still just like, what is that? Like I've never worked on that before. So, and that's like hard because then I feel like, okay, well, I'm in this role managing this project, I should know.
Yeah.
You know, like so then I feel like guilty that I don't know, and like, you know, it's like growing pains, like a learning curve. So I just really want to try to take on other types of projects, which I do have some lined up, so that's like nerve-wracking a little bit, but it'll be good. And then I kind of like along with that work thing, I want to take on a major outage, which I can do a whole nother episode talking like all about the different distinctions of my job, but essentially it's just like a very large project at the power plant. And I have done a lot of like managing smaller aspects of a major outage. And there are some project managers at my company who they get the major outages a lot. And so like I look up to those people, and I really hope that like someday soon I can like make to that point where like my boss and like the customers can trust that like they know that I'll do a good job with the major outages. So those are my two work ones. Did you have other categories of goals that you wanted to go into?
But one thing about your first one, so I agree with like learning new equipment. I think it's very intimidating in the beginning, and I feel like you can read all about it, you know, all about the equipment before, but until you actually work on the project, you never know, you know, fully the process. In that case, what would be your steps to kind of prepare for like a new piece of equipment?
That's a good question. A lot of it is just like, I think you just need to be thrown into it. Like there's, like you said, there's only so much you can do with reading and looking at drawings, and like, you know, sometimes I'll try to go down into the shop and we have like people that specifically work on the floor doing all the disassembly and reassembly. So I try to spend some time down there when I am in the office and just like talk to those guys or girls, whatever, and see if they can give me advice. And I think they appreciate that, because I think like some people in commercial roles don't always like to get down dirty, you know, like in the nitty gritty. So I don't know, I'm excited because I have a project coming up this spring in Florida, and the customer contact, I get along with her really well, and it's kind of cool to like work with another girl, you know, like two girls running the project. So, you know, we've been kind of talking like, ooh, getting ready for this outage. Like, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready? Like, so I think like I just really need to be thrown into it. There will be tears, I'm sure. Like,
as there always are.
As there always are. It's funny. I talked to my he was my mentor. Now he's like my boss. The other day, or not, like a couple of months ago, probably, when I saw him in the office, and I was like, yeah, like really excited for this outage season. I hope it goes better. Like, I was crying a lot working from home. And he was like, you were? And I was like, well, I mean, yeah, I'm a sensitive lady and I don't know what's going on. And I was like, I just want to do good. And he was like, oh, well, you're doing good, but I didn't even know you were crying. Like, you should have told me. And I was like, no, I didn't want to tell you. Like,
you're like, it's okay, I just need to do it. Like, it's going to happen either way.
Right? I was like, it's a personal thing. Like, I just got to get through it and then feel more confident. He's like, oh, okay, like...
He's like, okay, weirdo.
Because he's, like, not used to working with a young girl. And, like, I'm sensitive, okay?
You're like, I'll deal with it, just let me cry.
And, like, let me cry in peace. Like, so, yeah. Sure, there will be tears, but, yeah.
Exciting, we can't wait to hear about it.
I know. I'm sure I'll have, like, updates on the podcast. I mean, like, the world is ending, the world is over. But
exciting. All right, and then I have 2 personal goals. So one would be getting into running a little bit more. I keep talking about this. I always talk about this, and my friends are always like, oh, you always want to start running. I never start. But I think maybe saying it on this podcast
it'll hold you accountable.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I want to get more into running, whatever that entails. That's just general. And then the last one, I kind of touched on it before. It was growing the podcast and just meeting more engineers through it. I think... we've talked already, like, briefly with a lot of cool people that want to be on the podcast. I think that would be so fun. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think it'll be cool, too, to get perspectives from other people because I feel like we really only have the experience of people we've gone to school with. Yeah. Or, like, our friends or whatever. So it'll be cool to talk to people who, like, went to other schools or, like, had other experiences.
Definitely. And, like, how differently they were prepared. Like,
yeah.
How their school, So.
Yeah. Let's see. I have 3 kind of personally type ones. So, like, third, grow the podcast and maybe start a Facebook group, like start a community. I think that would be a cool goal. I think it would be cool if we just had, like, a safe space for people to ask questions, Like, obviously people can ask questions to our Instagram, but, like, start that place where people can kind of have that dialogue back and forth of, like, asking questions about, like, where to live if they like get a job somewhere new, or like how to prepare for interviews, or reach out and see if people have connections, like, hey, I'm applying at this or interviewing at this one company, does anybody work there that can give me tips or something. And I just think that would be a cool thing to do. My 4th one is to read more. Nice. Before college, I was like, I have, like, memories of being in middle school and, like, always reading whenever my family was in the car or whatever. I had a book with me, or, like, in school, I always brought, like, a book to read, like, in class if I had finished something up. So
little bookworm over here.
Little bookworm, I know. And then, like, I didn't really read in college because, like you said before, you don't have time. Like, if you're not studying for one class, you're doing homework for another class, and, like, by that point, you just want to veg out. You just want to go look at your phone, and, like, you don't want to read.
Do something fun, like, well, not that reading isn't fun, but
no, you want to, like, go out. You don't want to sit at home and read a book. So I kind of started reading a lot more in 2021, and then this year I want to read. I have 15 books. That's my goal. Okay. So, like, that's, like, a little bit more than one a month. I don't know. I just feel like I want to read more.
Any specific, like, genre? Or?
I've been really into self-help books, which I feel like is so cliche for a girl in her mid-20s to be reading, like, self-discovery books, but they've just been, like, really eye-opening to me, really, like, inspiring. Just they've helped me kind of, like, reflect on my life so far and, like, kind of figure out a vision of where I want my life to go. And I don't know, that's so cliche. Like, you see that in so many, like, movies of people being like, what should I do with my life? But, so, yeah. And then, one last one, I just want to be, like, more financially literate. So that also kind of goes with reading books. I don't know if you've ever read this book or heard of it, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, I've heard of it. I haven't read it.
It's a good book. Good book.
You recommend?
Very highly recommend it. It's this guy who, like, I'll just give a brief on. It's not, like, spoiling anything or giving anything away, but basically it's this story of this guy who, when he was a kid, like, he had this one experience with his family and, like, his dad was, like, typical, like, 9 to 5, always being like, oh, we need to save, we're broke, whatever, but they lived in, like, a really nice house and, like, were always taken care of. And he had this friend who lived in, like, not as nice of a house, but his dad, like, was really rich. And so the book basically just gives, like, these lessons that he learned from his rich dad, which was, like, his friend's dad. And he, like, kind of compares them to his poor dad, or, like, his dad who wasn't poor, but, you know, like, so it gives a really interesting perspective. And so I don't know. I don't know where I want to, like, take the financial literacy. I just think, like, everyone can do good by, like, learning more about, like, stocks and saving, and
you can teach me about the stock market.
That'd be good. And just, like, reading more about, like, financial mindset. And I don't know, like, we don't really learn about it in school too much, I feel like.
Definitely not.
You know, like,
we don't. I mean, I took an econ class, but
yeah, like, I have a savings account.
Yeah.
And I have, like, a retirement fund, but, like, I don't know. That's just, like, a goal to be more financially literate and just, like, to learn more about it. I don't think I'm gonna, like, become a personal finance guru in 1 year, but just, I think it would do me some good to kind of take it upon myself to, like, become more educated in that place of my life.
Very good.
Okay, I think that wraps up goals.
I think so.
Then I think we kind of wanted to talk about, like, our work experiences, go into that a little bit, maybe talk about, like, how we got started, like, interview-wise.
Our roots.
Our roots. The transition between college. And then I think it would be cool if you touched on, too, a little bit more about the transitioning jobs.
Yeah.
So, do you want to take it away with beginning of your career?
So, I graduated when COVID was at the peak in 2020.
Peak COVID.
Yeah. So then, applications, I don't even know. I think I applied to 200 jobs. I have an Excel of, like, of, like, a list of all these jobs. But yeah, so I started at a consulting firm. So it was a validation consulting firm. My first project was in the Maryland area, working on equipment validation. So there I was on site every single day, and the firm was based in the Chicagoland area, but then I would travel every week to site. And then eventually, like I said, they asked me to relocate, which was not in the initial terms. So I said, okay, I can't do that. And then I think the communication, there wasn't too much communication, so I'm thinking, okay, once they give me the deadline, they're going to kick me out of the company departments. Am I going to have jobs? So I was applying to other jobs, and I ended up getting a very good opportunity here in the Chicagoland area. So I ended up coming back here after like 6 or 7 months at that first position. And then this was a larger company. Started remote, did a few months remote, and now I'm on site mainly, supporting a project, but again, I'm like based remote. So, but that transition was very weird, just starting remote, coming from being in person. I feel like I learned a lot at that first role, and I really liked the company. I really loved my coworkers. I just could not commit to moving to the East Coast.
Weren't you, like, also traveling there, like, weren't you there, like, every week? Did you have an apartment there?
Yeah,
and, like,
so
you
they
would
covered,
come home?
Yeah, they covered the housing, so it was very nice during the weekday, but then I'd fly back Friday afternoon and then fly back Sunday
That's
night.
just, like,
so it's just
so
draining.
much work.
Yeah, especially when you're not supposed to travel because of COVID, but you're so, I mean,
and
I don't know.
I'm exhausted
all
the
the
time.
So tired. I was like, I felt so lame. I'd come home and I'd just sleep. Really.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I love the East Coast in general, but, yeah, and then transitioning to a remote job from there, it was crazy. It was just insane how different it was. But, yeah, I think it was just very overwhelming in the beginning of that new role. But honestly, it worked out. It happened.
Happens for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Was it interesting doing an interview for your new company? How is that different from interviewing right out of college, because now you had, 6 months, 7 months, or however long it was of experience.
So I think I was able to answer the technical questions way better.
So
I actually had experience and, could explain. I think one of the questions was, how would you start a new project from scratch?
Oh, okay.
Which I think my boss wanted to see if I would be able to handle these projects.
Kind of had the thought process.
She's going to need to lead these projects eventually. So I was way better at answering those questions and like the technical terms of everything.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's so different. Like I was doing a TikTok live the other day and I was talking to people, they were trying to get advice and I was just like, I don't know, even being an intern, like you don't get that experience. You just need to be in the real world for a sec.
Yeah.
And then it's like you learn a company's processes or like how they operate and it's just so different than college,
Definitely.
And like that, so that's good that then you had that experience for your next interview.
Definitely. And just like being in that situation where you're telling someone, like your manager, that okay, I'm not willing to relocate here. That was just the most awkward and like tough situation.
How did you do that? I feel like I cried.
I was like,
how did you approach them?
I was telling my mom, like, I can't say no. Like, I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go here. And she's like, oh my god, you're being so dramatic, which I was. But
and then they probably were like, okay, like,
yeah,
or were they fine with it?
Yeah, they were just like end of conversation, and that's where it was left off. Like, am I still gonna have a job? Like, I was like, okay, like they never said okay, like that's fine, or like they were just like, okay, like thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
So then I just was applying to other jobs, and then I told them, gave my 2 weeks notice.
Was that scary, giving your 2 weeks?
It was crazy. I was like, oh my god.
I'm scared.
So it was just like so much miscommunication. But again, it worked out for the best. Like, but it was just such an interesting
That's
experience.
like one thing that I'm scared about, like I'm not scared, but I've thought about, I really do like my company and I do want to stay here for a while, but I have thought about like, oh, like I could maybe start looking at other positions if I wanted to, but then I was like, I could not give my boss 2 weeks. Like, I feel so nervous.
I know. I was sad. I don't want to make anyone, disappointed.
Yeah.
Or, put them in that position either. But again, you have to take yourself into consideration. You have to do it in a very respectful and professional way.
Yeah.
And you just don't burn any bridges. But again,
well, I've like seen so many things too where people are like, at the end of the day, you're all like replaceable. Like they don't care as much as you think they care.
Definitely.
Like they're gonna find somebody else to do your job. Like it's not
exactly
like just because you're leaving doesn't mean the company is gonna crash and burn. But
I
sometimes I feel like that.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I can't leave my projects because they're mine and like my responsibility. But yeah.
So on site there, I was like more execution. It was more routine testing.
Mm-hmm.
And here at this role, I kind of like start the whole drafting process and like project from scratch. So I think like when I went to that site, it was already like set, everything was already ready, and it was just like they needed someone to like do the testing. So yeah, very different experience.
And then you had to like meet people during COVID.
Yeah.
Well, I guess in both jobs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how did
it was
meet
easier.
people?
Yeah, it was easier on site for sure. And actually, I worked with a lot of younger people, which I loved.
I
love my team.
I feel like that's unique because I feel like typically people who work in engineering, it's like a bunch of old people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was honestly so happy. I loved my team. But here at this role, at this company, I work with a lot of older people, which, again, I think it's harder to meet just because I was remote, but now that I'm on site a little bit more, I do get that, like, little banter during the day. They pop in, they're like, hey, how you doing?
I feel like it's also so funny when people ask you, like, how was your weekend? And then I'm like, oh, good, because you don't want to, like, actually say what you did or whatever, and then you're like, how was yours? And they're like, took the kids to the pumpkin patch this week. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, you have kids.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, so that was kind of my whole thing. Best of both worlds with like a smaller company and then a bigger company.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And now you already have that experience. Like, I feel like, do you feel like you're more confident if you do ever change positions in the future? Because you already had that kind of experience of re-interviewing and stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely helped. I think it would definitely be like, again, overthink the process. You still freak yourself out.
Yeah.
But I think again, it was just like with our first episode, we filmed it once. It was just like the nerve of doing it the first time.
Yeah.
So I think
the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Exactly. So
yeah.
How about you? Why don't you give us a rundown about your roots?
Yeah.
Your start.
So I graduated in December 2019. So I started applying to jobs in the summer. And similar, I had a little spreadsheet and was just applying to everything. Like, even if I didn't think I was qualified or didn't think I would like it, I was just like, I need a job. Like, applying everywhere. So I applied for my current position. I actually applied to be a parts engineer in the parts department. They kind of work with more updating drawings because our company is based in Japan, so they do a lot of like translating into like English units and like the English language. I don't know. I thought I liked drawing on CAD, so I thought it might be a good job for me. I did the interview. It is extremely intimidating. There's just like 5 men sitting at a table, like all different ages actually. So that was kind of interesting. There were 2 guys that were in my initial interview who I thought were like kind of a couple years out of college. I could tell. There was someone who was like, and then there were other people who were like a little bit older. And that was really intimidating to just like sit down at the other end and just be like, hello.
This is all in person, right?
All in person, because this is before COVID.
Yeah.
Because I actually was interviewing in the summer. I was interning at a different company, and I told the people, I don't know if they could tell, but I was like, I have a doctor's appointment, so I'm gonna have to like go. And then I like went to this interview, still in the Milwaukee area, and I like changed in my car into like a professional outfit or whatever. So it's before COVID, it's in person. I did the interview. I thought it went pretty well, but like I didn't really know what to expect for my first like professional interview. You know, like you interview for internships, but I don't know, I just felt like it was different. I got a call from the recruiter from the company like a day or 2 later, and he was like, so we really like you as a person and think you would fit in well with our company. He's like, but based on your experience and like the previous jobs that you were explaining during your interview, that group of people thought that maybe you could contribute better to the company in a project management role. Like, would you be open to that? And I don't know what project management is. I'm just like, sure. I don't know. So he sends me the job description because I had to like still go through the process of applying online, even though I had already had an interview set up. So I read over the job description. It's like mechanical or manufacturing degree, managing large-scale projects with various different types of power generation equipment. I'm like, okay. Like, I don't know.
You're like,
sure.
I'll do it. I'm like, just my arm.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. It said something, I think, about like 6 Sigma on there, and I had just taken a class, so I like brought up those terms of like lean manufacturing and stuff like that, lean workouts. In my interview. So I had an over-the-phone interview with my boss and my mentor, who then ended up, now he is my boss. Thought it went pretty well. They asked me to come in person, and they sat me down and they like went over all the different like spreadsheets and like programs that we use on a daily basis. I think they were just trying to like see if I got the hang of like how well I could like catch on to new things, you know? They like showed me a couple drawings of like turbines and wanted to see if I could like look at a drawing and kind of figure out what it was. So that was kind of interesting. Then they did like, this was like a 3-hour long interview. Like I'm exhausted because I'm like, you're trying to be like peppy.
Yeah, you're smiling all the time. You're like,
you're smiling and you're trying to be like, okay, yeah, I'm willing to learn like everything they say. And so then they do a walkthrough of the shop, and it was kind of like, I think it was kind of like my boss was trying to test me a little bit, see like how familiar I was with like the manufacturing like space. Like he would point out a machine and be like, do you know what that does? Or like, do you know what that is? And I'd be like, oh, that looks like a cutting tool. It looks like a, you know, milling, it's a lathe or whatever. Like, do you know what this is? And I'd be like, oh, that's like a screw. It's like a nut. I don't know. He's just like pointing out different things, walking me through the shop. So this is like a really, really freaking long interview. But so by the end of it, I was like brain dead. And actually by that point, I had finished up my internship, which was good because I don't think I could have gone back to work. Like I was, went home. I was like exhausted. So I ended up getting the project management role. So I got an offer in September of 2019, and then I started my job in January of 2020. So started off, kind of was under the mentor who was in the interview with me. I kind of like worked directly beside him on projects, helped him out with things, eventually kind of took on more projects. My first outage season, I was like with my mentor, and I didn't really know what to expect, like if I would be with him still, or like how long I'd be shadowing him or whatever. Next outage season, I was like by myself, and that was like the season
crying.
I'm crying every day because I'm like, I don't know. Like, people would ask me questions, and there's only so many times you can say like, I'll write it down and figure it out for you.
Yeah.
You know? By the end, I'm like, I don't know. Like, okay, let me just figure out these other questions first. So, yeah, and I've been with the company ever since. I didn't apply to the job because I was like, ooh, I want to do power generation, you know? Mm. I think I've kind of like learned to like it. It's a really fast-paced industry. There's some travel involved. I think the more I do it, the more I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is really interesting. I could see myself being here for a while. And, you know, people say, like, the grass isn't always greener on the other side. So I don't know what it would be like to work for a different company, but I really like the people I work with. So, yeah, that's kind of how I got started, and we'll see.
Exciting.
Yeah. So, I think, is there anything else we want to touch on with, like, our jobs?
Maybe just like me interviewing like remotely because
so
I did all of my interviews remote fully, like all of them ever.
Like Zoom or phone calls or both?
They were both. So usually they started with a phone call, like as a screening, and then it would be a Zoom call. And those were like usually an hour. And then I remember there was one role that I was interviewing for that did a panel interview.
Oh.
So it was like 6 different people on the Zoom call.
Oh.
So that was like kind of interesting deal because like it was funny like when they would like 2 people would speak at the same time and then
they're like
they'd be like and I was like okay
you go.
We all felt awkward. I was like so that was super interesting. But yeah, that was something definitely to get used to. And like for school, I know that they just never prepare you for the in-person interviews, and then they just were not ready to prepare people for the Zoom interviews.
Yeah.
There were a few recording interviews where you had to record yourself. And they give you some like questions.
I hate that.
It was terrible. I was like, oh my god. But yeah, so I think that's where we differ in our experiences. Like everything was remote for me, but for you, you know, at least you had like the in-person, which I don't know what I would prefer, honestly, because I did do in-person interviews before COVID.
For like internships and stuff?
Yeah, but I feel like now I've just gotten so used to like Zoom stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Did they like ship a computer to you? Or
yeah.
Because your first day for both jobs was remote, right?
Yeah, actually for the smaller firm, I had to go pick it up on the weekend. So again, that was like a little difference with like the personal time, I think.
Yeah.
You know, because it was a smaller company and smaller companies in general, you kind of have to do things on your own time and like after work hours. And I know bigger companies are more, you know, aware of your time, and they're like, here, we'll ship it to you, we'll do that, we'll get that all taken care of. But
that was like one of my biggest struggles my first year working, is that I would get so peeved when I worked more than 40 hours. Like I would be like, I am only getting paid for 40 hours. Why am I working longer?
Yeah.
And like the expectation to sometimes have to do things on the weekends, and I would be pissed. Like I was like, I need to apply to a new job. I hate this environment. Like I would always vent to my mom. My mom would be like, then apply to somewhere new. Like stop complaining.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't know. I think like after I finished up my first year, I kind of like, I don't know, shifted my perspective a little bit and was like, okay, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
You know,
just gotta get it done.
You just gotta get your stuff done. Yeah. And I don't know. Like, I don't think that I was prepared to, you know, have to work sometimes on the weekends or whatever.
I know. I think sometimes, obviously, like, we have to work after hours. I just feel like I think of each little project now that I'm able to, like, lead my own projects as my own little baby. So I'm like, I don't want them. I just feel like I'm very type A. Like, I don't want them to fail. I want them to...
We're so similar in that.
I feel like I do end up working maybe Sunday nights to prepare for that. And I'm like, no one cares that much about this project, I guess. Or it's not that high priority. But I'm like, everything needs to be in order.
Yeah.
Like, I think I just... have the mindset of every project is like my own little thing. But then I'm like, it's not my own project. Like, get over it. Like, but I think that's also like a fine line you have to learn to, you know, balance your work. Because again, coming from engineering, like I was just super type A perfectionist in school. Always doing things. Yeah. So I'm like taking that into this. And I'm like, maybe I should get a hobby or something fun.
And welcome to the podcast. Yeah, it was really weird for me because outages a lot of times the site work will be 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days. And I remember my first project when that first season when I was on my own and something went wrong on a Saturday, and we have like work phones. And I remember my site guy called me and I was like, how's it going? Like all chipper, and he's like, not good. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, have you checked your email for the day? And it was like noon, and I was like, it was a Saturday, I'm like getting ready to get my nails done. I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And he's like, just open your computer. And I remember that day, I don't think I'm ever gonna forget that day, because it was the first like emergency I had to take care of at my job on the weekend. Called my mom because we were supposed to get manicures, crying, and I'm like, I can't get a manicure, Mom, I have to work. And she's like, is there anything I can do to help? She like brought over Culver's cheese curds. She's just like sitting, I think I put on like the Kardashians for her to watch in the living room. I'm like taking care of stuff on my computer. I remember having like the worst day ever, but then like I don't know, like I just got kind of like you said, I think I just had a realization where I was like, oh wait, these are like my projects. Like you get like a sense of pride.
Yeah, your name is on it.
Your name is on it. Yeah. You're the contact. Exactly. And then this past fall outage season, I think I was kind of more like every morning, every Saturday and Sunday morning, I'd check my computer, check my emails just in case, Mm-hmm. And I felt like I was a little bit more prepared for, even my mom was like, it seems like you handled this past season way better. And I was like, yeah, I did. Because I was like expecting to have to work sometimes on the weekends. So that's definitely different. Well, speaking of jobs, do we want to maybe introduce the templates that we have?
Oh, yes.
For our listeners?
Yeah. So, like I said, I had a spreadsheet of all of the jobs I applied to. I love my spreadsheets. So we actually created a few templates, and not just, job applications. We wanted to make one for everyone. So we have one that is related to job applications, where you can list like per interview, like keep track of everything, kind of the contact name of who you interviewed, the job title, the link to the posting, and just kind of like everything that I did to keep track of what I needed to remember, like notes during the interview, remember like their little favorite little stories or something that you can bring up in a later interview and just be like, oh wow, she's really good at remembering things. And then we also have a template for like a 4-year college plan where we have all like your courses listed, because I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I feel like class advisors or like college advisors, they get so busy where they're like, oh, you don't need to take this class, and then it's senior year and they're like, you can't graduate without this class, and you're like, okay, so how are you gonna help me with this, because you told me 2 years ago that I didn't need to take this, and I'm not gonna take another semester to take one class,
right?
So just being able to like, we have this template for you to plan ahead and just like not be put in that position.
And keep track of your grades too.
Yeah.
Your GPA.
And then the last one is just for people who are currently working, who are not in the application process or college process anymore. Just like keeping track of everything you accomplished at work, even if it's like a minor little document that you drafted, just so that you could speak about it in like your performance reviews, because I feel like we do so much that we just don't note, and then you just forget to bring it up.
Or you think it's like not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But and then just like keeping track of your projects and like your deliverables for each project, because I know one transition again in this role is just handling multiple projects at once for different sites as well. So we have these templates, and I believe we're gonna do a thing where if you repost the podcast from our Instagram or post it on your story, we'll send you a Google link with all of these template options that you can take a look at.
Yeah, so
hopefully they help.
Hopefully they help, and it'll be obviously it's free. We just it's really important for the podcast to get like the ratings, help us reach more people. So if you leave a rating or if you share the podcast, just make sure you screenshot it and then send it to. I think we want to send it to our Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, or maybe like a Google form. You can add the
have a link in our bio.
Yeah, we'll send it to your email.
Send it to your email. And I think that all of them will be really helpful, but just like based on my current experience right now with the job thing, like, my first year-end review, it was so hard to sit down and talk about my achievements. Because I was like, because I don't know, I think we're all pretty humble people where, you think, what did I do? And it's like, well, I just did my job.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't really do much other than that, and you're like,
but then
can't
it's
even
like
talk about that because it's like your expectations. You're expected to do your job.
Exactly.
You can't like brag about it and be.
But maybe that's just our personality.
I don't know.
Just like these type A people who are like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, of course we're gonna succeed. But you just don't really think about it. And if there was a place where you could keep everything throughout the year, like you said, even if you're just like making a document, but you could keep track of like how it improved something and why, you know.
Yeah, I just found myself going through my notebook and being like, okay, what did I do? Like trying to find a random note of like, okay, do this document or like write this but I feel like having this list just makes it so much easier, and just like you pull it up and you're like, here's my spreadsheet of everything I accomplished.
Yeah, and that will look good, I feel like, for your company too, just for your supervisors to be like, I have this spreadsheet that I keep track of everything. Like they'll just show that you like can take initiative and just, you know, I don't know, make you look better.
Definitely. Yeah, you're organized, you're a little planner. But...
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully we can cover everything that people need. Like we said, we have the thing for college to keep track of. We have the thing for applying to jobs, and then we have the thing for work. And even if you're, I don't know, maybe if we have high school students listening, I think you can also adapt like the job one probably to applying to colleges too if you need to adjust it a little bit. I think other than that, it pretty much covers everything.
Yeah, unless you guys have ideas, let us know.
Yeah, so we're super excited about these templates. I think it'll just be another way to like, incentivize our listeners to, of course, we would love to see reviews and ratings and like, you know, any feedback you guys have, and then we want to give this to you in return to try to like give back. So yeah. Anything else we want to cover on today's episode? This was really good. I feel like
we didn't cut it up into sections. This was good.
We just chit chatted. We just went.
I feel like talking about our career path though, our future, like where we want to go with her.
Oh yeah. How could I forget?
How could you forget?
We have one more segment we wanted to talk about.
Okay, so I think that was just our general... So we talked about our short-term work goals.
Yep.
But we also wanted to talk about just our future career path in general.
Long-term. Maybe like 5 to 10 years plan.
What are you thinking?
Okay, so I have... like I kind of said, I didn't really know what to expect with my industry or my company, but I think now that I've been in it for 2 years, I'm just like, I really like it. I don't know, like it's really fast-paced. It's definitely like taxing when you're like doing it, and there are some tears. It's emotional, but then it's like really rewarding to like look back and be like, wow, like I just did that whole project. That like that's pretty cool. And it's cool how I like how my job, I have a direct impact. Like you can just Google power plant near me and you can see probably in the news different things that are happening with power plants, and like there's a good chance I've probably been involved in some of those things. So that's kind of cool. So I definitely think I want to stay in my industry. Never say never though. Never know what opportunities could be presented itself. But I want to try to maybe have like other roles within my company. I don't know how realistic that is because it is such like it's hard for like training, like to try to rotate roles within my company. I was talking to some people that apparently like long ago they did have like a rotational program, which a couple people that I work with were a part of, and I'm like, I wish they still had that, because I think that it would be cool if I could do other roles, whether that be like a site manager or being like a turbine or a generator engineer on the floor of the shop, and then come back to project management, because I do really like my project management role, but there sometimes are times where I'm like, I feel like if I had more experience in one area or another, I could like be better at it, you know, like have a better perspective on it. So, yeah, and that's something that like I'll probably be bringing up to my boss, like seeing if there's opportunities for that, like transitioning within my company. But I don't know how it would work out logistically, but I think that'd be cool to do within the next 5 to 10 years or whatever. So
exciting.
Yeah. What about you?
So I am similar in the fact that I want to stay in my industry. I do want to stay specifically in validation, actually, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think more of a managerial role and like route would be the way I want to go rather than stay technical. I think I do have a few more years like in the technical role just to learn everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I definitely want to go down that path, which is kind of why my other short-term goals kind of align with like presenting and like being able to like getting like a mentee and like working on those like softer skills, I guess. And then maybe just like pursue an MBA or something, or maybe another master's degree that would help me in that regard. But I think that one I need to look more into. And I think those I'll probably work a little bit before getting that. But
and sometimes I don't know if my company does it. I don't know if your company does, but like sometimes companies will pay for it, or like not pay for it, but they'll give you something towards it or whatever.
Yeah. So definitely have to look into that. But I feel like that is just on
the horizon a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm just chilling right now. We're just working on the technical part. But yeah.
That would be I feel like I could potentially be interested in doing that one day too, or like getting my PMP.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That's PMP is Project Management Professional certification. So I think my company does do a thing where they can send you to this retreat in California where you like are there for a week and you like get your PMP. I think that stopped because of COVID, so I don't know if they're gonna be doing it again. But that, or like getting my black belt in Six Sigma. My company does that as well. Or is it black belt or green belt?
I think there are different belts.
There are different
I think
ones.
black belt is like the highest one.
Yeah.
And then maybe you start with the green belt.
Because I think you start with yellow belt, because my company does a thing where everybody, no matter what, even if you're like marketing or accounting, they want everybody to do the yellow belt. So I have that one done, but
nice.
That'd be cool to just like, I don't know.
Keep going.
It's always good to have resume builders.
Yeah.
To keep your options open.
Yeah. Something to keep you busy.
Yeah. Just like a new thing. Maybe that's just our personalities too.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe we need like hobbies. But exciting. But yeah, so I think just to close out, make sure to stay tuned on our Instagram for that Google form, where you can upload the screenshot of you reposting our podcast to your story, so then you can get those templates.
And maybe we will do like a reel or something, or a TikTok where we kind of sneak peek them so people can see what they look like. They're really cool.
I think they're cute.
They're pink.
Yeah, I changed the colors on mine. I was like, we'll have to make it more towards the Best Friends and Engineer marketing brand.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. As always, be sure to follow our socials for the podcast. On Instagram and TikTok, it's My Best Friends and Engineer. And then YouTube is BFE Podcast. And then our personal, mine's Libby B on the label on TikTok and Instagram.
Mine's Engineer Lexi on TikTok and Instagram as well.
And yeah, I'm so excited for you guys to be joining us on this journey. I feel like we finally have it down. Like, I feel confident for our next episodes.
Yeah, I think so. I think much better than our first.
We were
so nervous.
We were so nervous. Like, I feel like the more we do, the more we just get more comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. Which, again, we have to just go out of your comfort zone sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, catch us weekly on Mondays. Be sure to tune in, follow the socials for updates, and thank you guys for listening. Do you want to close it out with
ready?
Our signature?
Let's see how many takes it.
Wait, are we saying our names again?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. I'm Libby.
I'm Lexi.
And thanks for listening to My Best Friends and Engineer.